Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown with me, Matthew from Stillwater Alchemy. How was last week? There was a lot going on as we predicted with that full moon, Uranus stationing direct, Aquarius season starting, us wrapping up Mercury and Venus retrogrades. On the full moon last Monday, there was a giant blizzard that came through Toronto, and the full moon was opposing Pluto, and the entire city basically crashed. All transportation was at a standstill. Subways weren't working. People were pushing buses out of snowbanks. It was a lot. It was very Mercury retrograde, full moon activation, emotional intensity. And I was saying during the last week's breakdown that Wednesday night, we had that moon in Leo making a trine to Mars and Sagittarius. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a good day to like move your body or have fun or maybe go on a date. And guess what? I randomly went on a date on Wednesday night with an individual who was a Leo rising. And so I've also been watching old episodes of Sex and the City, like nonstop. And you know, if you've ever been in that situation where you're binging them, and your voice is like narrated by Sarah Jessica Parker. And I was walking home and I looked up at the moon and I was like, I couldn't help but wonder, does the moon really influence my dating life that much? Or am I just a lunatic for love? But yes, there was a lot happened last week. If you have any fun stories to share, let us know in the comments. And let's jump ahead to this week, shall we? So this week, I will say, I'm not sure if you're all feeling it, but I feel like with the start of Aquarius season, it really does feel like a new year. Like energies are shifting, like we're learning the lessons that we need to. But I really want you all to still really pay close attention, because there's going to be moments that you're going to be tested, or where there's going to be a lot of intensity this week. And it's really going to show how far you've grown, not just in the past few weeks, but over the past few years. So gentle reminder, we're starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I'm currently located in Toronto. First things first, we have Mars ingressing into Capricorn. So this is really great with regards to essential dignity. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So think of Mars, quite simply, what are you fighting for? What are you passionate about? Where do you want to put a lot of energy into? So this is going to be very structured. Remember, in the sign of Capricorn, it's going to be very diligent, going to be very long-term, what you want to fight for in the grand scheme. Maybe for the rest of the year, you now know what things are not working. So you're focusing on attention on certain matters, potentially even relationships and love. Now that we have kind of the lovers of the planets, Mars and Venus, co-present with each other in Capricorn, I do want to forewarn that there may be even more kind of Venus retrograde-esque things that come to the surface, because Mars also represents sex and sexuality. So the shadow side, or the more frictional aspects of Mars, can be aggression or conflict or strife or anxiety. So it's just something to note with Venus and Mars getting closer and closer to each other. Venus about to wrap up her retrograde, that if there were a time for old lovers or old relationships that may have been turbulent in the past, this will probably be it, right? Especially with Mercury retrograde. So it's up to you to decide, is this relationship one that I want to pursue? Or maybe even evaluating your current relationships, whether it's with love, friendships, family, colleagues, it doesn't matter, to whether you can place better boundaries. Because we also have the moon in Libra squaring Pluto. So that emotional depth, there may be, again, Libra, all about the scales, balance, harmony, wanting to make sure that everyone is content. However, we now see with this square to Pluto that it's not whether or not everyone else is okay and happy, but are you okay and happy with these structures and the boundaries and the restrictions that are opposing you, and potentially more so your relationships with the moon in Libra, but just in general, right? Like all of our relationships, currently what's going on with everything in the world, it really is this time where, again, we always want to lead with love and compassion, but everyone is extremely tired and frustrated with what's going on. And so how can you show up to be in better balance with yourself to then attract better opportunities to put forth energy and focus in a more direct, aligned manner? And lastly, I want to say that for those of you who have a lot of Capricorn energy, I know that I feel like a lot of my Capricorn friends during their season this past few weeks felt like there was just so much contraction, so much resistance or where they weren't able to get as much done. And just in general, Capricorn energy has been going through it ever since 2018. Truly, 2018, Saturn was in Capricorn. It can be very intense when it's going through it. Even as its home sign, a lot of lessons need to be learned. Start of 2019, we had the South Node in Capricorn, a lot of release, a lot of purging, what no longer is serving you. And now we had all this energy too with Venus retrograde. So for the past few years, if you have dominant Capricorn energy, I assure you that things are about to get way easier, especially once Venus stations direct and once we're done with the retrogrades. And Mars and Venus are going to be in Capricorn until March 6th. So this is a really great time for you to be productive, for you to be proactive, for you to look ahead in all areas of your life to see where are the roots you want to plant and what are the things you want to put focus into moving forward. Now, I know that was a lot of information just for Monday, but I just wanted to emphasize because those Mars transits usually last for about 6 weeks, unless it's about to go retrograde or in a retrograde, right? So this is something to really take focus of because Monday in general is a beautiful day to get things done, get all the things off your to-do list. I want you to kind of bank those things off earlier in the week because the weekend, there's going to be this huge event or pop-off or climax, and we'll get to that soon, okay? Tuesday. So this is an interesting day because the moon is now in Scorpio. With regards to essential dignity, the moon doesn't really like being in Scorpio. It's said to be in detriment. Not air quotes, sorry, I don't know why I said that. The moon is in detriment in Scorpio, but sometimes that word can be restrictive. I think that's probably why I put it in air quotes. So Scorpio moon energy, it can be very emotional, very intense. A lot of those fears and anxieties can come to the surface, which sometimes we don't like dealing with. But I would also kind of implore you to track whenever the moon is in Scorpio every month, because that can be where we get really into our anxieties and deep into our emotions, where we can get stagnant. The reason why I bring that up is because the moon is opposing Uranus and also making a square to everything that we have in Aquarius, Mercury, the sun, Saturn. And so if you're one to really absorb the energy of others, their emotions, their energy, I want you maybe to take a step back on Tuesday and just focus on being with a loved one and spending quality time with them. We do have the moon making a really nice trine with Jupiter, which is great. And then the moon is also making sextiles to Mars and Venus. And so that's what I'm thinking. If you can spend quality time with people that you love and be in this benevolent state, I think your manifestations can come through very strongly on Tuesday. But if you're trying to do everything and serve everyone, I think that moon in Scorpio is just going to want to take a break and shut off everything, lock all the doors, and kind of numb itself if it gets overly stimulated. Because sometimes with the moon in Scorpio, it just wants to be by itself and to process things alone. So that could also be an option if you don't want to see anyone. But if you are social, spend time with someone of quality and someone that you can just have fun with. And that can be a vibe. I remember a week or two ago, I was with a really good friend. She's also a Scorpio. And we were just like laughing, having a good time, just her and I. And we were watching this cooking show and biryani was being made. And she's like, have you ever had biryani? I was like, no, never. And so didn't think twice about it. I went to meet up with a friend later after that. And he was like taking out some food. He's like, oh, I have some biryani. Do you want it? I was like, psh. Literally, it was like an hour later. Something so simple as that in terms of manifestation, the seed gets planted. I didn't have any attachment to it, obviously. An hour later, boom, it's in your auric fields. That's what I'm saying. When you're really on benevolent people and you're enjoying high frequency conversation and love, the things that you're taking in together can manifest very quickly. But if you're with large groups of people or trying to serve everyone, then you're taking on all their energy, can be very intense. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation for a different time. I'm just saying that on Tuesday, if you want to spend time alone or spend time with quality individuals, it would be a great day to do so. Even just a very fertile day, right? With the moon making that trine to Jupiter and opposing Uranus. Also, just be careful of relationships, of just like getting very emotional or maybe wanting that connection, especially with the moon making sextiles to Mars and Venus, of maybe saying yes to that old lover, yes to a connection, or yes to an engagement because you feel obligated. But then it could also be very emotionally triggering. Whenever we have the moon in aspect to Uranus, it can also be sudden mood changes or your emotions changing quite suddenly. So that's why if you are one to get triggered or activated by others, maybe dial it back on Tuesday and just spend time what you want to be doing. On Wednesday, it gets significantly better because now the moon is away from those tricky aspects with everything. And then we also have the moon making a nice trine to Neptune. So I would take note of your dreams on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, see what's coming through, even just asking your subconscious, what do I need to know around my career? What do I need to know around love before you go to bed? So it's kind of like knocking on the door of your subconscious mind to answer and reveal what needs to be done as an exercise if you feel called. We also too have the moon now making sextiles to Mercury and Pluto. And so this can be nice too in terms of intuitively knowing what needs to be done, or different news or different information coming to light, or you attracting the situations or the conversations that are going to benefit you moving forward. This is interesting too, now that Mercury has retrograded back into Capricorn, being very close to Pluto. And I just think this is kind of like the crescendo that I was speaking about before as we get later on the week, is that now Venus is finishing up its retrograde, as is Mercury. Mercury's getting closer to Pluto. Mercury was last year at 29 degrees, that aeronetic, that critical degree, back at the end of the year. So December 31st, January 1st. So that was also a tricky time because a lot of people were sick or unwell, or it was just a lot of fear and tension in the cosmos. So it's almost like we didn't feel like it was a brand nearly set resolutions or new mindsets. So this is a time to kind of take a step back and reevaluate, and where are you wanting to place that energy, or set maybe new goals or ambitions moving forward. Now you can see this pile up of Capricorn energy that we have as well: Mars, Venus, Pluto, Mercury. So really look to that Capricorn house in your chart, because it's really going to be activated for the next 2 weeks or so. Now, if we talk about, again, this moon Neptune, great for journaling, spiritual work, meditation, really just calming that nervous system. If you've been feeling really up here and emotional, this would be a time to dial it back, even like taking a long shower or a bubble bath, just using that water energy to your advantage, okay? And the last thing I want to note is we now have Mars within a 4-degree sextile of Jupiter, and the sun within that kind of 4-degree square of Uranus. So the plus side is Mars sextiling Jupiter, this really benevolent, hardworking energy, wanting to make all your dreams come true. This is great. The sun squaring Uranus in terms of the collective energy, all of us as one, wanting to have certain freedoms, maybe restrictions getting in the way. We've talked about this Saturn-Uranus energy as an underlying theme for 2022, but now we have the sun now getting closer and closer to that square. And we'll talk about it at the end when we get to the end of the week, as something that's really interesting, especially in Canada, that's happening. But this can just be on an individual level. Where do you need to break through those limits? Where are you placing yourself in a confined, restricted manner, whether it's in work, in relationships, in your mindset, to break free, to receive the freedom of time to love who you want, to live in whatever city you want? Those are going to be energies I want you to explore, especially in regards to your dreams. If you've ever been told that it's not possible, that's crazy, you're dreaming way too big, this is a time to evaluate that throughout the week, okay? Now, Thursday, January 27th, the moon is now in Sagittarius. So we have a lot of aspects going on with the moon here. The moon making sextiles to the moon and Saturn. And then we're also having the moon making a square to Jupiter. This is a great day, again, for productivity, with that moon in Sag, being able to think big or wanting to be very bold and ambitious and creative. And then having the sun and Saturn here in Aquarius, maybe being able to ground it a little bit, or being able to use that joy and that benevolence potentially to encourage or to enlighten or to make others happy. So let's say you are an entertainer, an artist on social media, you might be able to get some really good traction or really good structural energy in place in terms of what you want to create, putting yourself out there on Thursday. And remember, Thursday is ruled by Jupiter. And guess what? We have the moon making a square to Jupiter. So first and foremost on Thursday, do something that makes you happy. Please, 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 whatever that is. I think also with that moon in Sagittarius, it's a very fiery, happy, benevolent energy. With Jupiter, it can kind of multiply that. So the more that we can put ourselves in a situation to be happy, the more happiness and joy and creativity and wealth we're going to attract. This can be something to just watch with the moon squaring Jupiter, and that feeling like you have to do everything for everyone, or to make everyone happy, or to answer all the different notifications or emails at once. Almost if you're feeling that more productive tone with the Sun Saturn energy, I would turn notifications off so you're not distracted, that you're just cultivating that joy and honoring it, or at the very least on Thursday when you wake up, doing things to prepare yourself for success and fill up your chalice all the way full. It's overflowing so that happiness can just spread to every area of your life and then come back to you tenfold. Okay. That's a nice energy on Thursday. And also too, as we're getting closer and closer to that new moon in Aquarius, Thursday, Friday for me, it's kind of like really nice days to knock off any final things off your to-do list, get different things sent out, make those conversations, sign those contracts, whatever it is, because once we get to the weekend and then the 31st of January, it's a lot. So like I said, with that Mars ingress into Capricorn on Monday, really powerful day for productivity. Today, Thursday, and then also Friday is also quite nice as well. The thing to be careful about on Friday is now we have Mercury retrograde, almost exactly conjunct Pluto, and the moon is making that square to Neptune. So there may be, and I'm curious to see how this is all going to manifest, because around this 24, 25, 26, 7-degree mark of Capricorn, that's when Saturn and Mars and Pluto were all hitting essentially when the pandemic first started in 2020. Even the last time that Mars was in Capricorn was February, March of 2020. So it's interesting that all these planets are kind of making a comeback and they're all kind of hitting those final degrees of Capricorns one last time. So Mercury, again, relating to information, communication, maybe more news or dramatic news being released, which is causing people to be maybe emotionally erratic or not seeing things clearly. Sometimes with Neptune, it can dilute or place your head in the clouds where you're not thinking properly. And so our emotions might be triggered on Friday with something really intense or some kind of news. And again, this can be on an individual level. Venus is stationing today. She'll station direct tomorrow on the 29th. So that can also be on an individual level where you get correspondence or someone hitting you up or wanting to reconnect in any aspect, which is then causing your head and your heart to not be aligned, or for you to completely abandon logic and go for the dream. And so just be cautious of that on Friday because it's very prevalent. Another big energy you can use with this moon square Neptune is that no matter what obstacle is in your way, or let's say you get a restrictive piece of news or like this can't happen yet, are you going to allow that sadness or that despair to overcome you? Or are you going to allow maybe the dream to get even bigger, or for you to look at it from a different vantage point? So you're not giving up on your dream, anything, you're expanding it, or having extreme faith, which is another kind of element linked in with Neptune that's going to work. And like I said, when we have these retrogrades, remember, we still have Mercury and Venus retrograde. For me, it's kind of like a final exam or a midterm when you're in high school or university. The universe is just testing you to ensure that you have the emotional, the spiritual, the physical foundation to handle that next level. It'd be like giving a page the Excalibur or some beautiful sword, and he's just a teenager. Like he can't wield that sword, and he has to train with something smaller so he doesn't hurt others or himself. But if we want all these grandiose dreams, but we're not ready for them, our spirit team is trying to protect us, even though in the moment it feels like we're not getting what we want. Everyone around us in terms of our guide, spirit team, the universe, God source is just making sure that you're ready. And what do we do when we take a test? It's making sure that we have, most times, standardized testing and exams. I know have its own conversation, but generally speaking, let's say you're a doctor, you're taking your finishing exams to make sure that you have sufficient knowledge to treat patients. When we're in retrogrades, for me, it's making sure that we have sufficient knowledge and understanding of ourselves in relationships, how we speak, career, finances, whatever it may be, to get to the next level. So I personally feel, with all that being said, that Friday could kind of be reaching that crescendo, that if you get a piece of unfortunate news or there's something that comes through on a collective level that causes stress or anxiety, how are you going to react? And if you've done the work truly, I feel like the blessing or that next level is around the corner. Trust me, trust me, trust me. After that Aquarius new moon, whew, not that everything gets better right away with the retrogrades, though, stationing direct and things happening in the cosmos. At that point, it gets really good. So this is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, ensuring that you have all the goods to make it through. Saturday So all of this Capricorn energy, we now have the moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury retrograde, exactly conjunct Pluto. I do think that there's going to be some kind of news source or some kind of article that comes out. What's also interesting is that in Canada, the truckers are creating this freedom convoy, and they're going from British Columbia all the way to Ontario. So from Western Canada to Eastern Canada. I read something like 120,000 trucks are going to be on this convoy, which equals around 700,000 people, to protest the Canadian government's mandate that the truckers have to be vaccinated. And so this is disrupting the food chain supply because around 20% of the truckers will not be able to go back and forth between the States and Canada. And there's been so much, and we've been seeing in the news too, in Canada at least, that there's shortage around produce, or people are in that scarcity mindset and just stocking up because of the impending inflation due to this delay with the truckers. That they're supposed to reach Parliament in Canada on the 29th. So there's definitely going to be news around that. Spoiler alert, but how that's going to affect other countries or how other countries are going to react to that, stay tuned. And now guess what? We almost have that exact Sun-Uranus conjunction, Sun in Aquarius, collective energy coming together in support of oneness of the collective against Uranus, which is that freedom, innovation. It's also kind of interesting too. We think of truckers driving long hours in a very steady way, very Taurus energy, very fixed. And then these truckers are delivering food. Also, again, a very Taurus energy. So it also gives us a time to pause and be grateful for every single person in our communities, in our cities, in our countries that are supporting us and feeding us and fueling us. And I think it is such a beautiful manifestation that all this is happening during Aquarius season. That's really highlighting this collective theme of Saturn square Uranus. Now we have the Sun square Uranus. It's just really seeing that coming together as one to fight for equality and for choice. And I believe they have a GoFundMe page, this Freedom Convoy here in Canada, and they've raised over $2.7 million for fuel and food for all the truckers involved in the convoy. So that's just one example of what's already transpiring. I'd be curious for all of our friends watching all over the world, if there's any other kind of energy or situation that's coming to light, or even just intense news sources that come out over the weekend. I'd be curious for everyone to just share in the comments what's coming through as other examples of how this may manifest. And again, we're in that dark moon phase right before the new moon in Aquarius. So it's going to be intense. With the dark moon phase, it's more so just a time to rest and recalibrate before the moon starts her cycle again. So I would really check again the Capricorn house in your chart, because that's going to get a lot of attention. And 29th, we now have Venus stationing direct. So Venus will still have that shadow period after she stations direct, but now these lessons are going to become more clear, or everything that you've went through may manifest in a more beautiful, productive manner, contingent that you did the work and learned the lessons accordingly. And on Sunday, again, this will just be a continuation because we still have that Mercury conjunct Pluto. Now the sun is exactly square Uranus, and the moon getting closer to Mercury as well. So if there is a situation, especially with the moon sandwich between Venus and Mercury, there may be conversations that can be had to clear up any kind of quarrels or misunderstandings or things of that nature. And I also think in terms of reconciliation, or what's going to be happening, at least with the Canadian government, this will be interesting to see how this emotional energy will help us moving forward. And even yesterday too, on that Saturday, the moon making a sextile to Jupiter. So that's kind of nice as well to help us out there, again, on individual level, as well as like some healing or some energy that can be taking place. And this is kind of like with that moon conjunct Mars, moon sextiling Jupiter, it can just be kind of like the kick in the pants that you need to get things in order, or the kick in the pants, or kind of like, all right, up and at 'em, or just the shove that you need to pursue certain energies or conversations that will take place on Sunday. So really pay attention what's coming through on Saturday, both on individual and collective level, and they might influence each other as well, right? Of course, this is all connected. So yes, I believe that's all. The new moon, I will say, will take place on February 1st, early in the morning, or if you're on the West Coast, It'll be on the 31st of January. So if you have the time and space on Sunday, clear out your home, go through your closet, fridge, all those dark moon energy kind of things where we're just getting ready for a new cycle as well. Okay. So that's all I got, everyone. As per usual, I know that's a lot of information that I kind of compact into a 20-25 minute video. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments. Let me know again if there was any fun breakthroughs or manifestations that came through last week with the Cancer full moon, Uranus station direct, or what you are working towards this week, or maybe certain goals that you have with Mars in Capricorn for the next 6 weeks. And please let me know what's happening over the weekend of this week, if any prominent news sources in your cities or countries come to light, because I am curious that kind of energy and that intensity of that Capricorn assembly of that stellium, we're going to feel it. So be well, make sure that you're getting that grounding in. Like I said, Thursday, maybe turning off notifications so you can channel that joy and that productivity, because the weekend, it's going to be a lot. And it can be a lot in a good way, but lots of transformation, kind of testing from the universe to make sure on an individual and collective level, we're all ready for what's next. That's all. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.